All right, we're going to talk about the sine rule. So first thing I did with this handout is we put all the labels and markings indicated in our problem onto our diagram. Something very important in geometry, you should remember that points are labeled with capital letters, and when I refer to the length of a side, we use lowercase letters. And the lowercase letter a, for example, is directly across from point A. So it's the farthest line away from that point. Lowercase letter c is the farthest away from point C. So something we learned in our previous lesson is that to find the area of a triangle, it's 1/2 times the two sides multiplied by sine of the included angle. So for example, this side is 7, this side is 8, and I would do 1/2 times 7, 8, and sine of 38.2. And no matter which arrangement you use with sine A, sine B, sine C, you should get the same area. Okay. Now, using this derivation here, if we divided each of these equations by 1/2 ABC, we end up with this relationship. And you will find out that these ratios will always be the same, which is why the law of sine works. So if we take this relationship with this triangle here, so A divided by sine A. So if 5 divided by sine of 38.2, we end up with 8.1, and we end up getting the same values with the other ratios here. So what do we notice? We notice that the ratios are the same. And so this works for when you have two angles and one side, and this also works when you have two sides and an angle that is not included, basically not in between the two sides. Okay. So the first thing I did here was we looked at the information that was given. So we are trying to find side A, or from B to C, side A here, and we know this angle here is 47. So I set up my ratio of length A over sine 47 equals length 5.6 over sine of 29. After I've set up my ratio, I can cross multiply. A times sine 29 equals 5.6 times sine 47. With my calculator of 5.6 times sine 47, I get this value here. And we have sine of 29, we get this value here. And if we divide both sides by 0.484, we end up with this value. Okay. Same thing with these questions here. You may want to hit pause and check your work, but the same sort of thing. I'll go over one of these questions. So we're trying to find angle x. So I could say x over sine 48 equals 23 over sine 37. Once again, you can cross multiply. X sine 37 equals 23 sine 48. And then divide both sides of the equation by sine of 37, which gives me this decimal value, and then you get this. Now, on questions E and F, you had to do some additional work because this 39 is not across from a side that I know or I care about. So what I needed to remember is that all the angles of a triangle add up to 180. So if I know this is 74 and 39, I can add those together and subtract from 180, and then I found this is 67. Now that I know this is 67, I can set this up. X over sine 67 equals 9.2 over sine 74. Same process. You might want to hit pause and check your work. Okay. Next. Now the same process goes if I'm trying to find the angle. So looking at the information given, I can write 20 over sine 37 equals 15 over sine c. So after I've set up my ratios, I cross multiply. 20 times sine c equals 15 times sine 37, and then I divide both sides by 20, and then we get this value here. And if I plug this into my calculator, I'm going to get 0.45136. Now, in order to find angle C, I have to do second sine and this decimal, and then I hit enter, and then I'm going to get the angle of 26.8 degrees. So the reason I do second sine is because I'm doing something called an inverse sine function, which goes from the ratio to the angle. Okay, and you may want to look at this and hit pause and check your work. Okay, last page. I have it all worked out here, but I'm going to work it out for you here. Okay, so given AD is 20, find the magnitude. So you know this is 20, right? Find the magnitude of ABC, so that they want this angle here. So the very first thing I did is I looked at, let's color the triangles here, that'll make life easier. Okay, so I looked at this yellowish triangle here, and if that's 78 and this is 90 degrees, I can say, okay, well, 90 minus 78 is going to give me 12. So that means that this angle right here is going to be 12 degrees. Okay, so, and we know that has to be true because all three angles in a triangle have to add up to 180. So this is 78, that's 12, that's 90, that'll add up to 180. Now let's look at the big triangle here. I'm going to color it in red. So from our red triangle here, I'm just going to redraw it up here. If we know that this is 24 degrees, because we have 12 and plus 12, that gives me 24, and we know this is 90, then I can do 90 minus 24, and I'm going to get 66. So this angle here has to be 66. Okay, so I've answered the first question here, that angle ABC is equal to 66 degrees. Okay, so now hence find the length of BD. Okay, so BD is this side right here that I'm marking in green. In order to do that, I'm going to draw this triangle here separately. So the triangle that I just drew in green, we know this is 12 degrees. We know this is 66 degrees, right? And we don't know this angle here, but if that's 78, these are a linear pair. Actually, we don't even need that angle, do we? We're trying to find this length right here, and you know that this is 20 centimeters. So I can use our law of sine, and I can say 20 over sine 66 equals x over sine 12. Okay, then I can cross multiply. I get x times sine 66 equals 20 times sine 12. and then I could divide both sides by sine 66. I get x equals 20 sine 12 over sine 66. And I plug that into the calculator, and I get x equals 4.55 centimeters. You might want to hit pause and check your work. Okay, next. I wish I put more space on this paper for this problem, but I'm going to do the best I can. Okay, find the value of x and y given this figure. So the very first thing I did was I needed to get this side length here. I'm going to call it z, just because I don't have another letter to give it. Okay, so what I did for this question is I set up the sine ratio first, where I could say 22 over sine 30 equals z over sine 118. And then we can cross multiply, and I get z sine 30 equals 22 sine 118. Divide both sides by sine 30, and I get z equals 22 sine 118 over sine 30. I put those into the calculator, and I get z equals 38.8. Okay, so I'm going to label this side here 38.8. Okay. Now, I need to figure out these other angles here. So if this is 30 and that's 118, I can figure out this angle here because all the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 30 plus 118 gives me 148, and 180 minus 148 gives me 32 degrees. So now I know this angle here is 32 degrees. Now if I know that that angle there is 32 degrees, notice here there's a little square, so that's a right angle. So I can do 90 minus 32 degrees, and then we get 58 degrees. So I know this angle here is 58 degrees. Now that I know that's 95 and that's 58, I can figure out this other angle over here, which I'm going to need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, so 95 plus 58 is going to give me 153. And if I do 180 minus 153, we're going to get 27. So this is 27 degrees. So now that I know these angles, 27, 58, 95, and I know this one side is 38.8, I can figure out the other sides using law of sine. So let's do it. I'm going to say, let's solve for x first. So I could say x over sine 27 equals 38.8 over sine of 95. Okay, so if I cross multiply this, I get x times sine 95 equals 38.8 sine of 27. Okay, divide both sides by sine of 95. I get x equals 38.8 sine 27 over sine of 95. And we get x equals 17.7 meters. Okay, now let's find y. So set up the same ratios. Y over sine 58 equals 38.8 over sine 95. And now I can cross multiply. I get y times sine 95 equals 38.8 times sine 58. And then I could divide both sides by sine 95. 38.8 sine 58 divided by sine 95. And then I get y equals 33.0 meters. And there's my answer for that one. Okay, so now this one here, I have to read the information and draw the triangle. So basically I just label it A, B, C, and put this information here. So this is 58 degrees, that's 8, and 5.1 and 6.84. They actually gave you more information just to see if you knew what you were doing. We're trying to find angle B. So angle B is right here, and here's that side that corresponds to it. And we've got this angle here, 58, and this side that corresponds to it. So we write the law of sines. We can say 6.84 over sine 58 equals this side, which is 8 over sine B. Okay, and then now we can cross multiply. We end up with sine B times 6.84 equals 8 times sine 58, and then divide both sides by 6.84. So I get sine B equals 8 sine 58 over 6.84, and then we end up with sine B equals 0.991869, and then so I need to do the inverse function of that. And to get my angle B, and then I get, and so once again, to do this, you have to hit second and sine in order to get this inverse function. So second sine, we get the inverse function, and then we get angle B equals 83 degrees. Okay, last question. We want to find the area of the triangle here. And with this information here, you've got A, B, C, 30, 22.9, and, oh, actually we don't know that yet. Oops. This is 9, this is 7, and so we need to figure out this angle here. But first, we've got this angle in this side, and with this side, we can figure out this angle. Okay, so I'm going to first find angle C. So we're going to say 9 over sine 30 equals 7 over sine C. Okay, we can do our cross multiplying. We get 9 sine C equals 7 sine 30, and divide both sides by 9, and we get sine C equals 7 sine 30 over 9. And then we get sine C equals 0.388. And now to convert that to the angle, I'm going to do the inverse of that, and then we get angle C equals 22.9 degrees. Okay, so now that I know this is 22.9, I can figure out angle A. So I can say 30 plus 22.9 is going to give me 52.9, and then we do 180 minus 52.9, and we get angle A is 127 degrees, roughly. Close enough. Close enough. All right. So so now what? So now that I know this is a 127, then I can find the area using the formula from the first page. Area is 1/2 times the two sides and sine of the included angle. So the two sides here are 7 and 9, and the included angle is 127. So I put those all into the calculator, and then I get my area equals 25.2 centimeters squared. You may want to rewind and press pause, and good luck. Ask me questions if you need help.